Daf Ayin, welcome, and we'll be beginning actually the mimers at the end of the third column of Daf Samach Tes. We're learning today the mimer, the first mimer, Zachar Shabbos Lekadshei. So the pasuk says in Aseret Dibros, Zachar Shabbos Lekadshei, remember the day of Shabbos to sanctify it. So the question is, what does it mean to sanctify Shabbos? Shabbos is already holy. With Yom Tov, the Jewish people have to declare which day will be Rosh Chodesh, and therefore the Jewish people create the holiness of Yom Tov. And that's why we say in davening and in Kiddush, Mekadesh Yisrael v'hazmanim on Yom Tov, that we add in Yisrael because they have an integral role in the holiness of Yom Tov, whereas with Shabbos, it's we just say Mekadesh Shabbos because Shabbos happens whether or not we do anything. It's just every 7 days. And like the Gemara says that do the Yidden and do Am Yisrael make Shabbos holy, it's already there from the beginning of creation. And Shabbos is called Shabbos Beraishis, meaning that what this means spiritually is that Shabbos is from beyond the spiritual level of the Am Yisrael, the Jewish people, because Shabbos comes from Chachma, the highest one of the spheres of Atzilus, whereas the source of the neshamas of the Jewish people are from the midas of Atzilus, from the emotional attributes of Atzilus. And the different neshamas come from different midas, some from chesed, some from gevura, some from tiferes. In other words, some from tilted towards the right, which is the side of love, others tilted towards the left, the side of discipline, and some in the center, tiferes, which is translated as beauty or compassion. And so Shabbos, it is beyond that, beyond the midas. It is chachma, and the way chachma, and then this chachma, this light of chachma, is revealed into the midas without us needing to do anything. On the other hand, on Yom Tov, we do need to do something in order to reveal the light of chachma. That because with Yom Tov, the revelation of Hashem that happens on Yom Tov is through our mitzvahs and our davening. So therefore, on Yom Tov, it makes sense also spiritually that it's that it's related to our efforts, and we say Mekadesh Yisrael v'hazmanim. Whereas on Shabbos, this infusion of the light of Hashem's Chachma happens without us needing to do anything, and this revelation of Chachma happens by itself. So that's one question. What does it mean, Lekadshei, to sanctify Shabbos? It happens automatically. Second question, that in the first record of the Aseret Dibros in Parshas Yisro, it says, remember the Shabbos, Zachor, whereas in the second rendition, which is in Parshas Veschanan, it says Shamar Yom Shabbos, to guard the Shabbos. And Chazal say that Zachor and Shamar, to remember Shabbos and guard Shabbos, were both said at the same time. Hashem said both at once, which is something obviously beyond human capacity. Now, guarding refers to mitzvahs lo yisaseh, keeping away from negative, whereas Zachor, remembering, is something positive and active. So Zachor is in general, the idea of remembering is the 248 positive mitzvahs, and Shamar, the negative precepts. And now actually Zachor, together with the first two letters of Hashem's name, is the numerical value, the Bigmatrיא of Ramach, 248, now 248 mitzvahs. Similarly, Zichri, there's a pasuk that says Zichri, that this is my memory, Hashem's memory. So Zichri, together with Vav, okay, the last two letters of Hashem's name, is also the numerical value of 248. So the Maimon will explain what is the spiritual idea of zachor and the spiritual idea of shamor. And also within remembering, there's two options. There's zachor plus yud-k equals 248 or zichri plus vav-k equals 248. So the Naamru will explain what each of these means spiritually and the difference between them. Before we get back to all these questions, we first need to understand the spiritual idea of Shabbos in general. Now, there was a creation for 6 days, and at the end of the 6 days of creation, Hashem said that the pasuk says that Hashem saw everything that he made it, and it was v'hinei behold, it was very good. So creation is through the letters, that each one of the Hebrew alphabet has a creative power, and each word is a combination of spiritual powers of each of the letters, and it's all modes of Hashem extending outward to bring lowering his light into the place of worlds. It says like when a person has an idea in his head and then expresses it through speech. So that's also extending the idea into speech, and therefore it's a descent from how the idea was inside his brain. So with Hashem, there's also Hashem has what we call Hashem's thought and Hashem's speech. The thought is the hidden world, the light which energizes the hidden worlds, the worlds beyond us, and then speech is the Hashem's light which energizes the revealed worlds. And thought is not like our thought, and Hashem's speech is not like our speech, like it says that Hashem's thought is not like our thought. And speech comes from midas. Speech is an expression of one's feelings, and it says about Hashem's feelings they're not like ours, like it says in Pasach Eliyahu that Lav dislach tzedek yediyah, that Hashem's righteousness, Hashem's which is one of the midas, is not like ours. So not just tzedek, but in general, the midas are not like ours, because with our midas, they have an impact and they cause a change in us. Whereas with Hashem's midas, it's there's no change in Hashem. Hashem remains the same, and the midas are only they're like something external from Hashem, and that's why Cya is the word for letters, means also to bring, but it only means bring in Aramaic, which the difference, Hebrew represents internal, how it is internally, and Aramaic, foreign languages, represents how things are externally. So the fact that Cya means to bring Hashem's light, but it only means that in Aramaic means that it's only external, but there's no internal change. Next paragraph, v'zeh. So now, so throughout the 6 days of creation, so Hashem, everything was created through Hashem's word, and it doesn't mention Hashem. It only calls Hashem Elikim. It doesn't mention the name Yud-K Vav-K until after creation, until we get to Shabbos. What's the difference between Yud-K Vav-K, which is called Havaya, and the name Elikim? We can understand the difference based on the often quoted pasuk, and it's often quoted in Hasidus, Shem Shemagin Havaya Elikim, that Hashem is like a sun and a shield. By the way, in the Pashtanim, the simple interpreters of this pasuk actually translate Shemesh here as a wall. Hashem is like a wall and a shield that Hashem protects us. But the regular translation of Shemesh is sun, and that's how Hasidus translates it. So Hashem is like a sun and a shield. The name Yud-K Vav-K, the first name mentioned in this pasuk, is like the sun, and the name Elikim, the second name mentioned, is like the shield. So Hashem doesn't change. Whereas Elikim is that shield which limits the Hashem's light according to the needs of the recipient. So the idea of creation, the miracle creation, it comes from Hashem's name Yud-Kei-Vav-Kei, which is unlimited. That's its original source. But to actually come down, that's through the name Elikim. Because Shem Elikim is where the Hashem's speech comes from. Where there's a limitation according to the one who needs to hear and understand it, whereas Shem Havaya is Hashem's unlimited light, and therefore it needs Elikim in order to come down to worlds. So throughout the 6 days of creation, it only mentions the name Elikim, because creation can only happen when Hashem's light from beyond is contained within the name Elikim. Then after the 6 days of creation, it ends off and says Tov Ma'od, that it was all very good, and then Vayichul Hashemayim, that it was all completed. So Tov Ma'od, the word Tov, like it says elsewhere, Tov is tzaddik, is holy and good, whereas Ma'od, very good, that's the Baal Shuvah. Like it says Tov Zayetz Tov. Tov is the Yetzer Tov. Ma'od, very good, is the Yetzer Hara. That's the Yetzer Hara, meaning when it's when the evil is transformed through teshuvah, through returning to Hashem and repenting. Now it says that the makom shebalik shuvah emdim ein tzadikim gemorim yachel lamed. Where the Baal Shuvah stands, even a perfect tzaddik can't stand, because through subduing bad and even transforming bad, so that creates a more powerful love of Hashem than what the tzaddik would have if he was good from the beginning. So similarly with bringing back and elevating Hashem's energy that creates worlds, so when it goes back to its source, so that's the idea of Shabbos, and that's similar to the idea of tshuva. So when a person is active, so he has his focus outward, whereas then when he comes back to himself, when he's resting, then all his abilities that were focused outward now go back internally. And that now his intellect and his emotions, his thoughts, his speech, his action, it's all just inside him, because he's just in a state of stillness. And that's what happens on Shabbos. Now, in particular, this is the Leil Shabbos, the evening of Shabbos, Friday night, which is when we stop working and now going back to our source in mirroring Hashem, stopping to work and going back to his source. And that level of Shabbos it happens by itself. In other words, that Hashem goes back to his source, and therefore there's this elevation of worlds to beyond creation. So to Hashem, as he is beyond being involved in creation. And although we just compared Shabbos to Tshuva, and indeed the word of Shabbos is the same letters as Tashev, to return, but we don't mean that Shabbos requires Tshuva in order to happen. We're just saying that there's similar processes. Okay, next paragraph, Achine, the top of Daf Ayin. So in Vayichulu it says, at the end of Vayichulu we say that Asher bar lekim la'ases, right, that Hashem had completed all of creation and was resting from all creation that he made la'ases to do, which it ends off with that he made to do, because creation is not meant to be left as it is static, but we're meant to improve and rectify creation. And in this vein, it says that the Shemer B'nai Yisrael says Shabbos, that the Jewish people guard Shabbos, Lasis as a Shabbos, to make Shabbos. So this implies that the Jewish people have to fix something in Shabbos, although we just said that Shabbos exists for itself. But here we're saying no, that the Jewish people, through their avodah in the 6 days, they rectify something in Shabbos. So what does this mean? So let's first look at a pasuk in Mishlei. It says, "Chachmas b'chutz taruna," that wisdom's outside taruna, they'll shout out or they'll sing. So Zohar explains that it says Chachma is wisdoms in plural because there's two levels of wisdom. There's the abstract wisdom, or the wisdom as it is in its spiritual source, aloof and just by itself. Then there's Chachma, that's called Chachma La, the high-end wisdom. Then you have Chachma Tata, the low wisdom, which is as it gets involved in practical solutions and involved in actual worlds. Now, Torah, as we have it, is involved in worlds. It's telling us how to live within this world, and it's refining the everything within the world. So when Torah dictates how to use something in a holy way, it's refining that item. And this applies to both the mitzvahs Aseh and mitzvahs Lo Aseh. So with mitzvahs Lo Aseh, it says this you can be involved in, this you have to stay away from. So it's getting involved in this world and directing us in this what is sort of out of bounds area and what's in bounds. And the same thing with mitzvahs Aseh. It tells us all the details of how to do the mitzvahs. How should a talus look, and what should it be made of? How many strings in the tzitzis, etc. And the same with all mitzvahs. Although these mitzvahs spiritually are from a high spiritual source, that the talus is the idea of makif, that it surrounds, so it's the light of makif which is beyond, and the tzitzis are white, also the tzitzis have 32 strings representing the 32 Nesivas Chachma, 32 paths of wisdom, and like yes, it says about this, the pasuk he quotes about makif, about surrounding, says that his Hashem's garments are white, which is true about tzitzis too. And similarly with other mitzvahs, for example, the choshen physically has to have certain stones and certain inscriptions engraved in them. But spiritually, they represent very high lights that are brought down by the Kohen Gadol, representing the epitome of chesed, of kindness, beyond worlds. So this all shows that the Torah is Chachma Tata. It's the Chachma as it comes down to be involved in worlds and to transform the darkness into light. And that's why the pasuk says Chachma is bachutz. It's wisdom outside. It's not just Torah as it stays above, but Torah comes down in order to transform the outside. And it's in plural. There's both a low level of Chachma, but it's powered by the high level of Chachma, by Chachma Allah. And even when it comes down into this world, it still has traces of Chachma Allah with it. And then Taruna, that will sing. In other words, the idea of singing and shouting out loud is the idea of expression and revelation. That through transforming the physical, so that brings out a revelation of Ein Sof, of Hashem's unlimited light, more powerfully than staying in the highest spiritual realms like Chachma Allah. And specifically through going outside, that's how we have this ultimate song. Next paragraph, Vir. So now, Chachma is called Reishis, like the pasuk says, Reish is Chachma Yiras Hashem, and this is so this is because Reishis is feminine, and then Rosh is masculine. So the Rosh is gives feeds to the Reishis. Like masculine is mashpia, as the giver to the feminine, which is the recipient. Whereas this is the high level of Chachma, whereas the lower level of Chachma is not called Reishis, it's the end of levels. It's like a Malchus, which gets involved in the lower worlds, whereas Reishis is Chachma, the top of Atzilus, and it receives from Rosh, which is the Keser, which is the crown beyond Atzilus, beyond all worlds. Like the pasuk says, that Chachma comes from ayin, from this nothingness, which is Keser, the crown beyond worlds. So it's like, for example, when a person has a new idea, he's filled with pleasure. So the idea is chachma, but it comes from the tainug, the pleasure, which is beyond, like within a person. The chachma is the receiving from the subconscious, and therefore when a person has a new idea, he has pleasure. The pleasure is still within this sort of depth beyond spheres. It's like sort of part of this subconscious, and that's why the pleasure is specifically when he has a new idea. The same idea later on won't give him as much pleasure, and that's because the pleasure tainug is connected to and the source of chachma. So when something new is being received by chachma, that's when there's the pleasure. So similarly, with Hashem, that tainug is the source of chachma, and that's a chachma would be called reishis, and tainug would be called rosh. Now, the word rosh, head, is the same letters as asher, which the word or the word asher. So asher means that. Asher means fortunate or happy. So it's related to pleasure. And like we see that Asher was named that Ishruni Bonos, that Leah felt fortunate, that Asher would be fortunate with his daughters. And like we see also with Asher Yesher Esecha, that fortunate are those who sit in your house, in Hashem's house. So we see Asher as being connected with good fortune and pleasure. And that therefore rosh, which is pleasure, is connected to this word asher. Next paragraph, Ve'hine b'virchas, second column. When we make a bracha on a mitzvah, we say Asher kiddushanu b'mitzvaysav, who sanctified us with his mitzvah. So the first word that I quoted from the bracha is Asher, because through mitzvahs we bring down from Hashem's pleasure into chachma. Both Chachma Ilah and Chachma Tata. Chachma Ilah is wisdom as intellect, as it is from Hashem's perspective. So that's Yichud Ilah, the way things are for Hashem, that the reality is Hashem and the worlds are a facade. And Chachma Tata gets involved in worlds, like we explained before, where Torah dictates the permissible boundaries and how to do mitzvahs, etc. And that's Yichud Tata, Hashem's oneness as it is within worlds. And this all comes from Asher, which is pleasure, the Eineg Ha'elyon, the pleasure from Keser, beyond worlds. So when the bracha starts off, Baruch Atah Hashem Lekeinu, blessed is Hashem, which is Yichud Elah, how Hashem is one from Hashem's perspective. Then we say Melech Ha'olam, King of the worlds. That's how Hashem gets involved in worlds. Yichud Tata, the lower union. Then we continue Asher Kiddushanu. So Asher means that the source of all of this is pleasure, which is beyond the spheres. So that means that when we fulfill a physical mitzvah, which subdues and transforms an element within the physical world, so that brings pleasure to Hashem, which is then revealed in Chachma. And therefore, when there's Chachma is bachutz, when wisdom goes outside to fix up the world, then Taruna, then it makes a song, meaning a revelation of pleasure. So now, based on this paragraph starting Ume'ata. So based on this, we can explain how we contribute to Shabbos, because Shabbos is the level of Chachma. In Chachma, everything is all good. It's already refined. And that's why Shabbos is not a time for mundane speech, because like it says in Pirkei Avos, Siyag la Chachma Shesika, that the fence around Chachma is silence. So Chachma is connected to silence. And therefore, on Shabbos, which is a day of revelation of Hashem's Chachma, so it's a day where we avoid, it's in general above speech, and we especially avoid mundane speech. And because at the level of Chachma, everything's already refined, everything's already good, so that's why we don't do Beirer on Shabbos. We don't separate between good and bad, because there is no bad on Shabbos. We're beyond that. Whereas on weekdays, refining and Borer is very important. It's our central role, refining the good from the bad and lifting back up these sparks of holiness. But on Shabbos, we're beyond that. Still, Shabbos benefits from the birurim that we did throughout the week, from the refinement throughout the week, because that refinement, like we said, subduing and transforming the darkness of the world, that brings eineg, pleasure to Hashem, which is then revealed in Chachma. So in other words, Shabbos has Chachma, and for that we don't need to do anything. It's revelation of Hashem's Chachma. But for Shabbos to also reveal Hashem's eineg, Hashem's pleasure, that is based on our avodah, on what we've accomplished with refining the world throughout the week. Now, Chachma is called Eden, and it says that a river came out of Eden to give water to the garden of Eden. So Eden is Chachma. And then out of that comes the different levels of Gan Eden. But it says that that a moment of doing teshuvah and good deeds in this world is better than than all of the world to come, than all levels of Gan Eden, because Gan Eden is only the pleasure that the neshama has from its understanding of Hashem, from Chachma, whereas when we do a mitzvah, we connect to Hashem's pleasure, which is beyond Chachma, and therefore it's doing teshuvah and good deeds in this world is better than all of Olam Haba and Gan Eden. And that pleasure is what is added to Shabbos through our avodah throughout the week. Now we can also explain why Zachor with Yud-K is 248 and Zikri with Vav-K is 248. Because throughout the week, we're busy working. The main work, like we said, the work is refining the world, but it's with love, with it through our Avos Hashem, our love of Hashem. That when a person is involved in anything of this world, is whether he's doing a mitzvah, in action or in speech, or he's involved in his business in order to support himself and his family so that he'll be able to serve Hashem. So this all refines sparks of godliness hidden within the physical world. And then they are elevated through davening. And the davening throughout the week is the sort of Shabbos within the weekdays. And then the tefillas of the week bring the sparks of holiness that he found through his avodah throughout the week, through refining the world throughout the week, to the tefillas of Shabbos, to the prayers of Shabbos. So all the sparks of godliness that he found throughout his avodah are elevated through Ava, through this love which is in davening. And now there are two central emotions. There's Ava and Yira, love and reverence. So reverence, Yira Shamayim, is called feminine, like it says Isha Yiras Hashem. Hisalal. It calls the Yiras Hashem, the one who fears Hashem, Isha. It's feminine, a woman, whereas about Ava, it says Zachor Chastai, literally to remember. Hashem remembers his kindness, but Zachor also means male, masculine, and Chastai, kindness, is the external of Ava, of love. So therefore Ava, love, is masculine, and Yira is feminine. And so therefore Zachor is the source, this Ava is the source of the 248 positive mitzvahs, and which all of them elevate the person and all the sparks of the world that is elevated throughout the week to Hashem, which and therefore to Yud-K, which is the beginning of Hashem's name, the highest part within Hashem's name. Next paragraph. V'hine tachlis. So the purpose of elevating to Hashem, so in other words, through his avodah throughout the week, with which he refines the world with love of Hashem, so he elevates all of that to Hashem. So the purpose of that is that afterwards there should be hamshacha, that Hashem should shine down from himself into the world, and this is the idea of hamshacha is through brachas. The bracha to bless also means to bend down, like it says hamavrich, to bend over the tree, to bend it downward. So that's bring Hashem's light down into the world. And this is connected to the word ma. Ma is in Kabbalah, it refers to Hashem's light as it is within worlds. Memale ka'almim, we won't explain why here. And then Mea 100, which is the same letters as Ma, except there's an extra aleph added, refers to Sovev ka'almim, the beyond. So it says that a person should say 100 brachas each day. And it's based on a pasuk which says, what does Hashem ask from you? And we can read ma as mea instead of what does Hashem ask from you. 100 Hashem asks from you, that Hashem wants us to make 100 brachas each day, which we do throughout davening and eating and other brachas we make each day. What we want is, and what we're trying to accomplish is to bring down from Sovev Ka'almim, from the light of Hashem beyond worlds, represented by 100, into Ma, Ma what, which represents the light of Hashem within worlds, Mamale. And this is the idea of the Hamshacha, the bring down of Hashem's light, which happens after and as a response to the Halal, us elevating ourselves and the world towards Hashem. Next paragraph over the page, V'hine. So the main Hamshacha happens on Shabbos. And this is the second accomplishment of 248. We've got the Zichri in Vavke, Zichri, my memory together with Vavke, also equals 248, because now we're not trying to elevate to the top of Yud of Hashem's name Havaya to Yudke. We're trying to bring down to Vavke. Vavke represents the lower part of the name as it descends down towards worlds. Because Vav is the shape of the Vav, it's a line, it's bringing down Hashem's light into the Torah as it is in this world, and into speech, which is also the sound is also connected with Vav, and speech with the Hey. Now, the source, root of Shabbos is in Chachma, but Shabbos, then the next step of Shabbos is to bring down Hashem's light, which is bringing down into Vavke, into the end of Hashem's name. And this is why Zichri, it ends with the Yud, which represents Hashem's Chachma, but then coming down into Vavke, coming down into the worlds. And this is like the sphere of Yesod within Chachma. The Yesod is about giving it out and being mashpia, giving it over to those below. Okay, next paragraph, V'zeh ציווי. So now, going back to our question, what does it mean to sanctify Shabbos? Shabbos is holy by itself without us doing anything. So the answer is yes, Shabbos is holy for itself at the level of Chachma. Whereas Yom Tov, which is at a lower spiritual level, it needs our avodah even in order to give it its basic holiness. But if we want to bring into Shabbos the pleasure from beyond spheres altogether, from beyond even Atzilus, so that requires our avodah throughout the week. And then that brings the pleasure into Chachma, and this is the meaning of a share, that when we do a mitzvah, we bring a share, good fortune and pleasure from beyond spheres. We bring that down, and we bring that down into Chachma, which is the sphere which relates to the level of revelation on Shabbos. Next paragraph. So this is why the Torah first says 6 days you shall work, and then on the 7th day you should rest. Seemingly, the commandment is simply rest on the 7th day. Working on the 6th day is not part of the commandment; that's optional. So why does it give that as a introduction to the mitzvah of Shabbos? Because in order to really have Shabbos, to have a revelation of Hashem's pleasure on Shabbos, not just from Chachma, but from Einig, from pleasure, that can only be accomplished through our spiritual work throughout the 6 days in refining the world. And doing so with the powered and driven by love of Hashem. So then on Shabbos, we can add to Shabbos, לקדשו, to make it more holy than it would by itself. Now, this is why Chachma is called Reishis, and Shabbos is called Shabbos Bereishis, because it receives from Rosh the head, which is Tainug, pleasure, and this Tainug is therefore the giver, the mashpia that is received by Chachma, and this is why the Jewish people are called Yisrael. Yisrael is made up of Li Rosh, 2 words, Li Rosh. To me is the head. So that means that the Jewish people, although we said at the beginning of the Maimah, they come from a level below Torah, but they reach a level beyond Torah. Torah is Chachma, and Shabbos is Chachma. They come from below Shabbos, but they reach beyond Shabbos. They reach to Rosh, the head, which is Tainuk. So that's all through the positive observance of Shabbos, sanctifying Shabbos. Then we have Shomer, guarding Shabbos. Guarding is about ensuring that the hamshacha, or the Hashem's light, which is given over, goes to the right place. It doesn't go to the wrong place. And that's like in general, Shomer we say is the feminine and zachar is the masculine. So zachar is the giver, he just gives. But where will it end up? Will it be received by and developed into something positive, into a child, like the classic metaphor of the masculine and feminine, or will it go nowhere or go to the wrong place? So that depends on the feminine that contains and holds the hashpah, what is given over from the masculine. So it shouldn't go to the wrong place. So, and when it does go to the wrong place, then it creates these out-of-world creatures like the demons, that, like it says about the Nephilim, that it talks about in these giants that it talks about at the end of Parashas Beraishis, that came from wrong relationships and wrong types of intimacy. That the hashpah, what was given over from the masculine, wasn't received, and that's the idea of shomer, to make sure it's received, and the light is used in the light of Hashem is used in the right way. But this is the final paragraph. But with Mashiach, so then it will be revealed how zachar and shomer were really said as in one. That Hashem said both of them at the same time. And that will be revealed with Mashiach, even in this world, that there'll be both Yichud Allah and Yichud Tata together, the oneness of Hashem as it is from above and oneness of Hashem as it's perceived from below, will be one. Meaning that there'll be Zachar and Shomer, and that's Shomer is Yichud Tata, Zachar is Yichud Allah. That Hashem's essence and unlimited light will be then revealed even in this world. Shomer is Hashem's light as it comes within worlds, Malchus. So therefore, it specifically when talking about Shomer, guarding Shabbos, it says that it's a sign between Hashem and the Jewish people, because the idea of a sign, Ois, is also a letter of the alphabet, and letters are related to Malchus, which is speech, and therefore it relates to Shomer. But when Mashiach comes, as we said, Shomer and Zachor will all be one, and that's why it says that Shabbos, when Mashiach comes, it's called the Yom Shekulei Shabbos and Yom Shekulei Aruch, the day which is fully Shabbos and the day which is fully long, meaning that the Friday night and Shabbos day is all one long day. Friday night, the Leil Shabbos is Shomer, when we're staying away from work. And Shabbos day is Zachor, is just the hashbad amshacha from above, and with Mashiach they'll both be one, because right now the worlds receive Hashem's light in a limited way according to what they can take in. Whereas when Mashiach comes, it will all be one, meaning that even in this world, we can receive Hashem's unlimited light. Okay, so in short, Shabbos happens whether or not we do anything to get there. Also spiritually, that on Shabbos there's this the worlds are elevated, and there's the light of Hashem's Chachma manifest. But on the other hand, we still sanctify Shabbos as well, because through our avodah throughout the week and refining the world and doing so, we're powered by Avos Hashem, love of Hashem. So then we reach Tainug, which is beyond Chachma. And within keeping Shabbos, there's two parts. There's remembering Shabbos and observing Shabbos. Remembering is the positive, which is both elevating ourselves and the world to Hashem, and then bringing Hashem's light down to us. And then Shomer, the negative, is making sure that revelation of Hashem is received in the right place and in the right way. Right now, there's two separate parts. There's Zachor and Shomer, but with Mashiach, they'll both be one, because even in this physical world, Yichud Allah will be revealed. Hashem's oneness as it is beyond will be revealed. So Zachor, the Hamshacha from above, and Shomer within this world will all be one.